We are live. Welcome, everyone. Let me know where you are joining me from. What part of the world do you live? Put it in the chat. The more you communicate throughout this event, the more you're going to get out of it. And you want to know something really cool? Sometimes people will actually find people that they can network and collaborate with within the comments. But if you don't comment, you may be missing out on an opportunity, or for someone to see you, they may need your services. All right. 7 leadership mistakes that kill sales. Oh, man. I was done. Oh, by the way, before I start, share this event. There's a repost or a share button down there at the bottom. Share this event. I have a template to have a short, succinct sales meeting where your salespeople will actually want to show up. They'll get engaged, and salespeople will start to say, wow, I like this format for this meeting. Plus, if you share this event, I'll get a notification and I will share or give you or provide a copy of my book, The B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. So share this event, I'll get a notification and I will share that with you. So I had really had it. I mean, I was sick and tired and being sick and tired. The sun had just set. I was sitting in my car and it had started to rain. As I was sitting there, despondent, I had a glow from my dashboard, a yellow light, and I looked over and it was the empty light. My gas empty light was glaring, and I was like, great, that's all I need. That's exactly how I feel, empty. 3 months earlier, I had started with this job in sales, and I had zero, nada sales. It was 100% commission. And as I sat there in the rain, without any gas, in my tank or in my heart, I was thinking, how am I going to survive? How am I going to provide for a family if I ever have one back then? And I got a call from my boss later, and he had me over for dinner the following night. And after dinner, we went into the den. I'll never forget. There's a fire in the fireplace. He was in his chair, kind of of prominence. I was sitting in a chair across from him, kind of like student to teacher. And he said to me, Chaz, are you sick and tired of not making any sales? And I was like, yes. He said, you can be. Now, those 3 words changed my life. You can be. I had a mentor. He was a boss, but he became a mentor at that moment, speaking life into my depleted personhood that didn't have anything left. I was empty. So he spoke life into me by saying, you can be. And he followed it with this. The number 1 salesperson in the company. I was 119 out of 119 salespeople. Dead last, 0 sales. He said, you can be the top salesperson in the company, but Chaz, you got to follow our system and process. It's proven. We spent much time putting this together. If you follow the system and process, I know you can be the top salesperson in the company. So I left his house motivated. The next day, I started following the system. I started following the process, and I wasn't perfect. Before, I was like trying to do it my way. And that's the kind of results that I was getting. Zero, nada. And all of a sudden, I got a meeting scheduled. The next day, I got a meeting. I got a sale. And I continued to follow the system. I continued to follow the process. I continued to get good leadership from my boss, who became my mentor. And 45 days later, I didn't become the number one salesperson, but the number 3 salesperson out of 119 salesperson. I learned an important lesson back then about systems, processes, and leadership. A proven system, a proven sales process, and good leadership. Over the next 20 years, it was rare that I experienced good leadership, a proven sales process, and system to work within. I usually had to develop out the system based on what I learned from Ken Upton. That was my boss, who was my mentor. And Bob, who was one of my bosses for a distributor, he was the CEO of a company. His company was no different. They didn't have a proven selling process. They didn't have a proven selling system. They're two different things. And so as I was hired, I was starting to implement my system and my process, because I had learned much over the years from experience, dating all the way back to Ken Upton 20 years earlier. And one day I was in the office, I was making calls, and Bob stood outside in the hallway, and he was kind of listening into my calls. And after I put the phone down from one of my calls, he said, "Could you come into my office? I want to talk to you." So I sat down, and let me let me give you some context. Bob was he is a 6'5", 350-pound former Marine, and he usually was calm or screaming, and you never quite knew what you were going to get. Kind of like Forrest Gump with the box of chocolates. And so as I sat down in the chair right across from him, he said, "Chaz, are you calling on the C-level?" And I said, "Yes." I could see his jaw tighten. I'm like, "Oh man, what did I do now?" He said, "You're going to waste your time and their time. We call on the material managers, the buyers, and the purchasing managers. The C-level is not going to want to talk to you. And so this is how we do it." And so I pushed back. It was a lame attempt of pushing back. I was weak. I was scared and fearful. So for the next 12 months, Bob was paying me. I lived through a lot of frustration. I was dealing with some anger as I was doing it his way. And I'll never forget, one of the people I was meeting with was a buyer with a manufacturer, a purchasing manager, actually, with a manufacturer. And I can't remember how many calls, but this is no hyperbole, probably 10 to 15 calls during the course of the year. I met with her maybe 3 to 4 times. It was an hour and a half out there. This was in person, an hour and a half back. And so imagine all that time out of my schedule, follow-up emails and whatnot. So 12 months later, I was meeting with this purchasing manager, and I thought, okay, I think I finally have a way in. And she said, "Chaz, we don't need your services." So we concluded our meeting. I walked out in the parking lot. I'll never forget it. It was a sunny day, and I'm looking out my window right here. Beautiful sunny day in Kansas City right now. It was a sunny day, and I was mad. Not at her, but at myself for doing the things that I knew weren't going to move the needle, weren't going to connect me with the right people, that weren't enabling me to onboard new clients so we can serve them. So I got in my car in that manufacturer who had just rejected me, the purchasing manager, and I picked up my phone and I called the president of that manufacturer who had just rejected me, the purchasing manager. I got through to him. I scheduled a meeting. The following week, I was meeting with Doug, the president of that manufacturer. And 45 days later, they became a customer. Over $100,000 a month, that type of customer. And so I continue to follow my system and my process because I knew they work. I had 20 years experience doing this. And so guess what? Guess who called me back into his office? Bob. And so I went back into Bob's office. And at that point in time, I'm like, you know what? If he says anything like this, I'm just going to let him know this is what I'm doing. If you don't like it, then I'll have to find another. That's exactly where I was. I wasn't going to be nasty or mean about it, but I just finally got to the place where I knew what I was doing was working and I could help him. I could help me and everyone else in the company. So he said, Chaz, he said, wow, your numbers are really looking good. What are you doing different? And I said this, promise not to scream at me and I'll let you know. He's like, okay. I really did not like when he went on these rants. I told him the system I was following, the process, and yes, I was calling the C-level. So long story short, he promoted me to national sales manager and he had me hire all new salespeople and train them in my system and my process. And guess what? Salespeople, it was no longer a revolving door of people coming in and out every 9 months. It was people came in and they stayed because we had a system and process and we created a different company culture and sales increased significantly. What I'm going to share with you are the 7 mistakes, the leadership mistakes that are going to keep you from growing sales. They actually kill sales, just like Bob is one example. And as I go through each mistake, I'm going to give you a way to learn from that so that you can correct your mistake and start leading your organization and start leading your people. You can create a culture where people want to show up, they want to work with you and enjoy the adventure with you. Okay, before I get into mistake number 1, if you share this event, there's a repost button or a share button down here at the bottom. If you repost this event, you share this event, I will give you the framework for having a successful meeting with your salespeople, one that people want to show up to. I'm going to go through this. This is one of the mistakes that leaders make. And I'll also give you a complimentary copy of my book, The B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. Share this event. I'll get a notification and I'll give that to you in the next day or so. All right. So mistake number 1 is mistaking management for leadership. Leadership illuminates a path. Management is more about checking the boxes. Leadership looks to develop your team's talents and skill sets, where management is more about making sure you're doing something. Management repels, leadership attracts. Real leaders, just like Ken Upton was a real leader for me who saw potential and he became a mentor who spoke life into this lifeless body back then. Leaders are real and they understand your gifts and they help you develop them. Andrew, a CEO of a service company, he didn't want to sell anymore. He was the main salesperson of the company. And Andrew's like, I want to focus on what I'm best at. Sales wasn't his thing. But if you're a founder, a CEO, and that's how you started, or maybe you're still doing that now, you can sell in ways that salespeople never can because it's your company. You develop the product, the service, the solution, whatever it is. So Andrew was no different. Sales wasn't his skill set. He didn't like sales, but he wanted to start his business. So he finally got it to a place where he wanted to hire a salesperson, but he didn't have a proven system. He didn't have a proven process in place. And so he hired a salesperson, think, I can sell. The salesperson should be able to sell. I'll just make sure to stay on top of them and I'll show them what to do and work with them. Well, tens of thousands of dollars, salespeople coming in, salespeople going out, salespeople coming in, salespeople going out. As I mentioned, tens of thousands of dollars. And he was getting really frustrated because they weren't producing. And he was micromanaging. He didn't have a system. He didn't have a process for them to plug into and follow. And his leadership was not leadership. It was about micromanaging. So I connected with him, with Andrew. And first thing we did is we developed out his core values. We developed a proven system and process. And we talked about developing a culture where people want to show up and actually do the work. And then he can, with the system and process, he can lead them to the process instead of micromanaging them, which is not a place. Micromanaging is good short term, but it's not scalable. You're not going to attract and keep the right people that way. So after a year of having a system and process in place and he started to be the leader his team needed, his salespeople needed, things started to turn around. They had that system and process in place and the business started to grow, and he focused on his area of expertise, which was more operations. Okay. So again, before I get into mistake number 2, share this event and I'll give you the template for having a successful sales meeting. It only takes 45 minutes. And I'll also give you an outline and a copy of my book, The B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. I'll get a notification. So everyone who shares this event, I will share with you. All right. Lacking a vision that inspires. This is mistake number 2. Now, these aren't in any particular order. It's 7 mistakes. I actually have a bonus mistake that I'll share with you as well. Without vision, you're not going to attract the right salespeople. Without vision, people aren't going to stay there. Gen Z in particular, millennials as well, they want something to be a part of something that's going to transform lives. A compelling vision attracts and keeps top talent. If you don't have a compelling vision that inspires, why do people want to work with you? What? And seriously, if what would your people say about your company? And is there a vision that inspired? Do they even know what your vision is? This is one of the reasons why I created X plus Y equals T. X plus Y equals T. X is your goal. Y, those are the 3 main products, solutions, services that you provide. You shouldn't have more than that. I mean, there's exceptions, but typically if you focus on too many, you're going to meander, and so will your people all over the place. It's good to have focus on 3 main products and solutions and 3 activities that your team, salespeople do in conjunction with your marketing team so that they can reach the goal. X is the goal. Y, we have the services, but the activities that you need to do so that you can reach your goal. And if you do the activities based on the vision that's inspiring, you reach your goal. And T is transformation. So now what you're doing is you're focusing on doing the main activities proven within a system and process to reach a goal, because when you reach the goal, this means you transform the lives of your customers, or if you call them clients, whatever you prefer. This is a game changer. You can take a newbie salesperson and a sales pro. Newbie salesperson, kind of like I was way back then, the worst salesperson, and a sales pro. And if the newbie salesperson believes in the service and believes and is convicted that if I sell this client this solution, our solution is going to transform their lives. If that newbie believes in your solution, it transforms, and the sales pro doesn't, even though they're very skilled, the newbie salesperson can outsell the sales pro anytime, all the time. Salespeople need belief in your product, solution, service. It's the number one determinant for people, your salespeople being successful. I can't remember, maybe 10% of the companies that I worked with, maybe even less than that, where I actually believed our prospect, our product, our service, our solution transform lives. What would your people say about your solution? Does it transform lives? So Sam, a CEO of a distributor, competed with a lot of other, it was a highly competitive field, like most businesses today. They were providing fasteners for manufacturers. They sold by line card. You know what a line card is? Yeah. Hey, John, how you doing? Hey, we got new hex bolts in today. They're really shiny. You want to buy some? What's the differentiation from that? Zero. That's how they were selling. And that's how their competition was selling. So remember, lacking a vision that inspires and focusing on transformation. Now, there was no transformation selling by a line card. It was just tenacity and persistence and being a pest. So they were doing that. Their gross profits were somewhere between 30 to 33%. And that was common for the industry. So I met with them and we made a shift. So they stopped selling fasteners to manufacturers and they started to reduce the cost of inventory, the total cost of inventory by 23%, and started increasing the production for these manufacturers by 25%. Gross profits up to 43%. And so what they started doing, instead of like, here's these nuts and bolts and this, and we can get them there on time, they started managing the inventory for these manufacturers. And you know what? Manufacturers didn't want to mess with their people making sure they had the right amount of fasteners. And if the line went down, production went down because of a fastener, whoo, man, big mistake. So they gladly paid this distributor to reduce the total cost of inventory and to increase their production. Gross profits from 33% to 43%. Sales went up. They went from 8 million to 15 million in annual sales over the next several years because it was no longer about selling a fastener. It was about transforming lives by decreasing the total cost of inventory and increasing production. That's what manufacturers care about. What would your team say? What would your members say within your business about your product, service, solution? Does it transform lives? Think about that. Okay. Again, share this event. I'll give you a template for the sales meeting format. Your salespeople will love this if you implement it correctly. And a copy of my book. Share this. I'll get a notification and I'll share that with you after this. Okay. Mistake number 3, setting expectations or failing to set expectations without standards. People live up or down to the standards you set. Expectations is just about doing something, but it doesn't lay out how to perform that expectation that you want. I remember listening to a speaker, Inky Johnson, and he was talking about the vast difference at two universities he went to speak at. And he was sitting in this was it for NCAA college football teams. And he was at an 81st ranked football team and a number 3 ranked NCAA football team. And so he was in team meetings for both of these colleges. And he said what he witnessed was a stark contrast between the number 81st ranked football team and the number 3. And he said in the 81st ranked football team, before the coach came in, the players were on their phone, they were joking around, texting, whatnot. The coach came in and they're still kind of messing around and whatnot. And then the coach, when he started to address them, they were kind of fidgeting and whatnot. So that's the 81st ranked football team. Does that resemble your people when they show up to meetings in your office? Now, the number 3 ranked football team, they didn't have their phones. They were sitting there. They chatted a little bit. The coach came in. He had their absolute 100% attention because they had core values within the number 3 ranked NCAA football team. They had standards in which they live by. So it's not about being in the meeting, showing up on time. It was how you showed up to the meeting. It was how you executed the plays. It was how you prepared for the meeting and for the game and for the practices. Expectations without standards leads to mediocrity. John has an IT company, and he had a sales team that were given clear expectations to perform, but the results varied from rep to rep. They did a certain amount of activities because that was the expectations, but the results varied vastly. This continued month after month, and quite frankly, year after year, he was going through this process. It was frustrating for him. It was frustrating for everyone because he just thought, here's the numbers you need to do. Why aren't you getting the results? And he tweaked and tweaked and iterated and iterated. So I met with him in this frustrated state as he's investing all this money in the people based on expectations and based on just the activities. And so what we did first and foremost is we created some core values, which established standards for him and his team of core values of service, understanding the prospect and customer, developing relationships, rejecting people who were a bad fit instead of just trying to sell everyone. Now they had core values. They also said, as we show up, we're there to serve as one of the core values. And so if we're going to make the call, we're going to show up prepared, doing our research, and we're going to use the right tactic with the right technique and strategy. Now they actually did less of the activities, but because they showed up at a higher standard based on core values, the results dwarfed what they were getting previously. And with those standards in place, there were some people that didn't live up to the standard, and that was okay. Now they had a team that had clear direction based on core values and standards that they lived by. Like, here's the number. You want to be the number 3 team or the number 81 team, right? It's based on standard expectations with standards, not just expectations. So within a year, he had a team of people that showed up, encouraged, who challenged one another. The culture was healthy, and they were getting results that he was trying to get for several years because now he had core values and standards in which they live by and not just expectations. Everyone started to level up because those standards gave everyone clarity on how they were supposed to show up. What would your team members say about your core values? Do they know what they are? Do you even have core values? Do you have standards or just expectations? Think about that. Okay. Again, share this event and I will give you the template for a 45-minute sales meeting that connects your salespeople and gets them to a place where they actually want to show up on time and smiling. And also a copy of my book. Hit the repost button or share button, and I will share that with you because I will get a notification. Mistake number 4. This is a big one. They're all huge, is creating a culture of fear. You may not even do it, or you may not think you're doing it. If it's not safe within your company to fail, you're going to destroy the morale of your people. This is a place where failure is the stepping stones. Failures are the stepping stones to success. But if you don't have the attitude in a culture where your people, where it's okay to get out of the comfort zone, to try new things within a proven system and process, then it's going to lead to mediocrity. You're not going to keep salespeople. You're not going to attract the right people. When mistakes lead to reprimand rather than feedback, creativity is stifled. You want to give your people a system and process and a culture based on standards that they can work within, but you also want to give them the freedom to operate within their gifts. When they have a proven system and process and standards, and now they're getting out of their comfort zone because they're using their personal flair, wow, that's when things happen within a business and you take it to the next level. John, a CEO of a service company, instilled fear into his team. He would have sales meetings and no one hardly talked in the meeting, which made him mad. And so he would rant and rave. Or if someone brought something up to him that he didn't like, he would demean them and he would put them down. And people came in and people went out. Typically, it was like 8 to 11 months, new salespeople coming in and then leaving. He realized that he was the problem. By the way, self-awareness is very important. And so hopefully these things, they're not here to put you down and demean you. We all make mistakes. We all need to improve our leadership and grow in how we are as leaders. I do each and every day. I make mistakes, but it's being real and honest with your team. Then you can build that genuine connection with them as they see you with a real person who set standards with core values, and you don't demean them and just destroy their morale because you're reprimanding them for doing something that they tried to think that was outside the comfort zone that might help. When you try something new with a new idea, it usually doesn't go well. And that's okay. It doesn't mean it was a bad idea. It's just when you execute on something new, it usually is flawed. And you learn from it and you own it and you improve it and then you try it again. So John realized he was a problem. So I met with him and it was real obvious what the problem was. He was a problem. So I helped him with systems and processes and created a culture. And we put someone in place, not him, who could lead the team within their core values, which we set up, within their standards. And we created a culture where it was safe to fail. They actually started celebrating. I helped to set up with the leader the failures. Hey, what did you really fail at this week? Well, I tried something. It was about doing something new. And then people would say, oh, that's a good idea. Did you think about doing it this way? And it led to so many creative ideas. People started showing up at the meeting, smiling. Before people showed up to the meeting, it's like, oh man, let's get through this. They showed up early. They were smiling. They were motivated. They were encouraged, and they left the sales meeting better off because they learned, they were encouraged and challenged. So culture of fear. Uh-uh. And ask your people, what would you say about the culture here? What's one word you would use? Now, if you're creating a culture of fear, you're probably not going to hear what they say, or they're probably not going to say what's really on their mind. But I encourage you to have a meeting and be real with them to see exactly where they are. So as this was set up, within the first 3 quarters of the year, things started to shift and change. They actually increased from 10,000, or I'm sorry, 10,000, 10 million to 16 million over the course of the next 2.5 years. Before, they were 2 to 5% growth. Now they have the systems and processes and the culture. Have you ever heard culture eats strategy for breakfast? It gets overused, but it's so true. It is so true. Mistake number 5, ignoring the need for a proven sales process. My goodness. Very few companies that I worked with had a proven sales process. Without a proven sales process, salespeople must make up as they go. They have to wing it. A clear step-by-step process focuses efforts and improves efficiency and productivity. And when you have a clear process in place, then the salespeople, if something happens, they can debrief, meaning, okay, what did I do? Oh, I missed this step. I forgot to ask this question. And so it brings self-governance for your salespeople, and it helps you lead them because you can see, oh, you missed this step. Tell you what, let's set up a special training on this so we can work on this area. So next time you are faced with this problem, when you hear this, you know how to overcome that. Does that sound good? So what they, so I almost got ahead of myself. So you need that in place so that people know what to do and what not to do. And it keeps them moving forward and making progress. Without a proven process, your sales cycle is going to be long. Without a proven sales process, your closing percentage is going to be low. Andrew had a SaaS company and burned through salespeople over and over and over, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And his thought was, man, what's wrong with these salespeople? They can't cut it. But the problem was he didn't have a proven system and process for them to plug into. Remember me with Ken Upton way back when? Chaz, you can be the #1 salesperson in the company, but you got to follow the system and the process. It's proven. Well, he never developed out the system and process, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he didn't have an ROI for his investment in people because they didn't have clear direction on what to do and what not to do. That when I met with him, that all changed as we worked through a proven methodology, a proven sales process that was customized to his business. And once that was in place, he started hiring people to the process. And the interviews became much more clear as he can say, oh, this person is going to be great for our sales process. This person will not be. So we started hiring people to the process. And within 6 months, he saw things starting to shift and change. Within 9 months, sales were at a place where he wanted to previously, but they never got there. Within a year and a half, their sales had increased 50%, and they continued to go up and up and up. And it wasn't about salespeople coming and going every 6 to 9 months. Salespeople were there for 2 years and checking in with them 5 years later. Some of those salespeople were still there because he made the shift. He made the change. He put a proven system and process in place for them to follow. So what would do your salespeople know what your sales process is? Do you have a selling system? A sales process is the steps you make. A selling system, think standards, we just talked about that, is how you execute on each and every one of those steps. Big difference, okay? Mistake number six. By the way, repost, share this if you would. I'd really appreciate it. This can reach more people. And if you share this, I'll get a notification and I'll share the sales meeting template, which I'm about to talk about here shortly. And you'll get a copy of my book, The B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. All right. Neglecting effective, customized, that's right, customized training and role playing. Generic training, sales training, there's lots of companies out there that have a one size fit. Let me say this in English. One size fits all, but it really doesn't fit all. You want a glove that's going to fit your hand, not like O.J. Simpson. If you remember, if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Okay. Actually, not very funny. So you want a glove in hand that fits correctly. You want a customized training for your salespeople that's based around your company, your solution, and your prospects who become your clients more frequently if it's customized. Effective training uncovers and addresses problems and engages people emotionally. Role playing is in how to face certain scenarios. It reveals blind spots so people are prepared. Developing sales rock stars requires your organization to be committed with customized training specifically to your business. And a founder of a staffing company, she had invested lots of money into some of the top, if I said the names, you would probably know them, some of the top sales training organizations out there. And she brought them in to help with their salespeople. And one didn't work. So she brought in another one and that didn't work. There were some helpful things that they learned. She spent lots of money on the sales trainers, selling systems, and she didn't get the results. The sales trainers weren't connecting with her people, and they would show up for these sales trainings. They're like, oh, rolling their eyes and whatnot. And this is about the time that I met with her after she had been doing this for several years. We connected and we developed out a customized sales training based on their specific needs, their people that are unique. Every organization has different people, different culture. And so you want to have a training system, selling system that is specifically made for your company. So 6 months later, well, actually 3 months later, people started showing up on time and smiling. When they first started showing up, it was kind of like, oh, here we go. So 3 months, showed up early, smiling. 6 months later, you could see the training connect and you can see the results. 9 months later, they got to the place where they actually were looking to double sales for the year, which they hadn't done previously. So a customized training that is fitted to your business like hand to glove. Training customized that's in alignment with you and your people. It works congruently with them. What would your people say about your training? Do you have a training? A lot of companies don't. So customized training specifically for your business with your solution that speaks, identifies, and attracts the prospects so you can convert those into clients and transform their lives with your product, your solution, or your service. Okay. I was talking about the meeting format, salespeople meeting format, and this is mistake number 7. Mistake number 7 is permitting endless meetings. You want your meetings to get people's attention. You want them excited to show up for the meeting. Many sales meetings they happen because it's like, we got to have a meeting and people show up, but they don't get anything out of it. And so you want to have meetings that have a clear structure, purpose, and there's clear takeaways that they execute on from week to week to week, or however often you're meeting. Brian, Brian, Brian had a sales meeting every Monday morning at 8 a.m. for salespeople. It was supposed to go an hour. It never went longer than, or never went less than an hour and a half. One time it was 3 hours and 15 minutes. By the way, I'll share this template with you that I'm about to talk about here. If you share this event, I'll get a notification. So I met with Brian and I talked with his people. This is what I do when I work with a company. And not only do I talk with the founder, I talk with the salespeople. I want to get a clear picture and get clarity on what's going on from leadership and the salespeople, because you can't just get a clear understanding just talking with leadership. You need everyone involved to get clear understanding. This is when I do what I call a gap analysis. So as I was talking with the salespeople, it's like, yeah, we go to those meetings, we hate it, and the life is just sucked out of us for the rest of the day. The one salesperson was telling about that meeting that went for like 3 hours and 15 minutes. He said, we end the meeting. It's like, why did we even meet? What we talked about so many things. There wasn't clear direction. We didn't have takeaways. We didn't have clear next steps. And so when I met with Brian, I have this meeting format that's 45 minutes, and that's the most you should meet. You could do meetings in 20 minutes. It doesn't, just because you're meeting, it doesn't mean it needs to be an hour. This is for 45 minutes with this sales meeting template where you meet, you talk about your wins, you talk about, okay, where are you slipping? Where are your challenges? And then you have a customized mini training, 5 to 10 minutes based on the challenges that they're facing that's addressed right to where they are. They're emotionally involved because they're talking about a challenge or something they haven't been able to do, or maybe a failure that they had. So that customized training based on what they're facing right now, they're going to retain the information. Many sales meetings have, okay, we're going to cover this, and it doesn't pertain to the people. And so they don't retain the information. When you're addressing what's going on with the failures and you give them something that they can take away and execute because of something they're struggling with, bam. So as we started implementing this, people started showing up on time. They started leaving on time, and they came away with a smile and motivation as opposed to the life being sucked out of them. What do your people say about your meetings? Seriously, ask them. You want to have a meeting that is clear and directed and helps them and gives them direction, that challenges them so they walk away with not 10 things to do, one practical thing to execute with a goal between this sales meeting and the next sales meeting. Then you can track it. It's called a clear next step. All right, here's the bonus. This will be number 8. Bonus mistake, leadership mistake, is you have your sales people, you have your marketing people, and what you do is you put your sales people in one silo and your marketing people out here. Okay? You want them together, not siloed, because sales is about converting. Marketing is about speaking to that main need and want in such a way that it builds confidence in their mind that your solution can solve their problem. And then it identifies, it attracts, and then it should be a seamless handoff to sales. And sales is about what? Converting leads into meetings and meetings into clients. So don't silo your salespeople and your marketing people. First thing I do when I work with a company is I bring them together and we get them on the same page. Marketing can feed so much life into sales, and sales can feed so much life into marketing. You need to be working together. Okay. So that is not only 7, but 8. So focus. You can focus on training in tactics, in techniques, and activities. But if you don't fix the leadership, install standards, you model, very important. You have to model those standards and have a healthy culture based on transforming, based on your core values. If you don't have this in place, you're going to be stressed out. Your team members are going to be stressed out. They're not going to be hanging around. They're going to be in and out, in and out, in and out because you're hiring new people because they're not staying. Changing isn't easy for a leader, but necessary if you want to reach the next level and start enjoying your business with your team members who enjoys the journey with you. Wouldn't that be cool? You want to take your business to a place you never thought possible? Do you? Or maybe to the place that you hoped it would be, but you're not getting there? It's eluding you. You're frustrated. You know you're not at the place you should be, but you have a product, a solution, a service you know that can change lives, but you don't know how to identify, attract, and onboard new clients predictably. This is how I can help you. And it's not going to cost you anything, just some time. It's an investment. I wouldn't say cost. It's going to be an investment of your time. Starts with 20 minutes. Send me an email to chazhorn@chazhorn.com. So my first last name at firstlastname.com. 4 letters at 4letters.com. Chaz Horn, not Chaz.horn, not Chaz_horn, Chaz space horn, just Chaz Horn at chazhorn.com. In the subject line, put GAP, GAP. I'll sit down with you virtually and discuss where you are, where you like to go, what are some of those obstacles you are facing. And this is going to be a 20-minute conversation, and I'll let you know I believe I can help you. And if we are both mutually interested, that we can take a next step. By the way, here's a catch. I only work with people who are coachable, committed, and decisive. Coachable meaning they take information and they act on it. Committed meaning, okay, I'm going to work with someone. You're committed to following through on what you learn. Very important. And decisive. It's not about, okay, here's something new, acting on it right away. I had someone reach out to me after they saw some content, and I met with the founder, and he had me connect with his VP of sales. When I was talking with the VP of sales, he was, well, what are you going to do? What's the plan? What's this? And I was talking about some different, we've done that. Oh, we've tried that. And so after my meeting with that guy, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to help them. And so I was going to meet with the founder again. It was actually with the founder and the VP of sales. And I was going to tell them that I wasn't going to be belligerent about it. I was just going to say, I don't believe I'm the best fit because I don't believe you're at a place that's coachable and committed. So I got a text about a half an hour before our meeting from the founder, said, Jim, the VP of sales, he's not going to be joining us. I said, oh. So I was about to tell the founder, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you at the beginning of the meeting. And he said, Jim is no longer with us. So problem solved. Sometimes these things have a way of working themselves out. So send me an email, chazhorn@chazhorn.com. Just first last name at firstlastname.com. Put GAP, and then we'll schedule a short meeting, and we'll have a conversation about where you are, where you want to go, what are those obstacles you're facing. And then if we both agree, then we can have a more in-depth conversation. This is just a meeting to see. It's like, yeah, I believe I can help you. And you're like, oh, what you're saying makes sense. Let's have a meeting. This is not a meeting where I'm going to try to close you. It's only 20 minutes. So send me an email, chazhorn@chazhorn.com. Put GAP in there. And remember this, it's okay to make mistakes. We all make them. But continuing to make those mistakes is the problem. Jocko Willink, in his book, his leadership book, Extreme Ownership, said this: if there's a problem in the business, it's your fault, meaning the leader's fault. The good news is, if it's your fault and you can identify it and you have someone that can help you, guide you and direct you, then you can make the correction so you can take your business to where you want to go. So Send me an email. Thanks for joining me. And remember, these are mistakes that help you be self-aware. And now it's your job to make the correction so you can take your business to the place that you only dreamed and imagined it can be. It's possible with the right help, system, process, and culture.